Today's Mercedes-Benz interview of the day brought to you by Mercedes-Benz Dream Days. The Mercedes-Benz Dream Days are here. Exceptional offers: CLE Coupe, E-Class Sedan, C-Class Sedan, CLE Cabriolet. Going on now through September 3rd. Learn more at MBUSA.com/dream. One of our favorites, he's Chase Daniel, former NFL quarterback, and he started something with Diana Rossini, co-hosting the Athletic Scoop City podcast, and taking listeners inside the NFL framework and explaining not just what happened, but how and why. We saw this. We saw this before everybody else did, and we said, Chase, go out there, be a star, and look at him. It's like, you know, when your son or daughter starts to walk and you're so proud. Look at Chase Daniel, learning how to walk in the podcast world. Congratulations, Chase.
Thank you. I appreciate it. That coming from you, that means a lot. I've really enjoyed all my hits on your show. And yeah, man, this podcast is off to a really good start. We just had Andy Reid on for the first episode. Stephen Jones was on talking about the Cowboys and Dak. And today, go check out the YouTube page. Go check out our podcast page, because we have an exclusive 45-minute long interview with Saquon Barkley, where he tells us his side of the story. Everyone's seen the Giant side play out on Hard Knocks. So it was really, really cool to see. Diana was able to go to his house, sit down with him on his couch, and really just hash out everything. So it's pretty enlightening.
You think the Giants are going to regret this?
I do. I think at the end of the day, because he is such a polarizing player, and because he's one of the faces of the NFL and one of the best players in the league, this negotiation process played out in front of America. And so what's really interesting in the interview is that Saquon says they only talked twice. And so that's sort of par for the course for some of these big businesses and these NFL teams. Like, it's just what happened. So it's business. I think Joe Schoen had a number. He didn't want to go past the number. Saquon thought he was worth more. Saquon wanted to retire a Giant. That's the biggest takeaway on this. He wanted to retire a Giant. But now he is re-energized and rejuvenated now that he's in Philly with that roster. So I think he's still got some good years left.
It was embarrassing what the Giants did. It'd be like if you said to your wife, man, I love you, but why don't you go out and see if there's something a little bit better? But hey, I want to be married to you for the rest of my life. Once you let the person out the door, you don't want them back. And I'm just watching them give lip service. And even Saquon told Diana, hey, there was no way I'm coming back after you say something like that. And it comes down to this, though, Chase. You compound one mistake with another one because they gave Danny Dimes the money. He really needs Saquon Barkley. So now you're going to take away Saquon Barkley, and you still got Danny Dimes. So you made two mistakes here. And it's, to me, inexcusable.
It was so fascinating to hear Saquon talk about this whole process, because a lot of people are like, oh, this happened in free agency and that was over. Saquon really goes in depth about the franchise tag situation last year. And when he said they had all the leverage at that point in time. I believe, and he believes, that was probably the time that it was over, because he just knew he wasn't going to get $12.5 million from the Giants. And that, Dan, is why the NFL players hate the franchise tag. They want long-term security. They want long-term deals. The NFLPA has been trying to get rid of franchise tags forever. Now, it only happens to 7 to 8 guys a year, but it's the star players that deserve like a lot more. He wanted to retire a Giant. And it's just like in Hard Knocks, Joe Schoen made the comment saying it took 10 years off Joe's life. Saquon was like, if it took 10 years off of your life, think about what happened to my life. So that's just par for the course on thinking for these GMs. They have a set number. Joe Schoen decided to go with offensive line rather than running back. They got Malik Neighbors. I personally think the Giants should have traded up for a quarterback. I don't know if Danny Dimes is the answer. So they got some issues there. I'm concerned about that team.
Oh, they were trying. They were trying to trade up for a quarterback. They were trying to trade up for a couple of them. Speaking of quarterbacks, explain what Jordan Love is doing with his love-in, where he's going to all the meetings. He's just not going to be participating until he gets a contract offer. extension, even though the Packers do have the leverage that he is under contract.
Well, I mean, I would hold in too. That's the new fancy thing to do. You can't hold out because you're getting fined. These players have gotten smarter with this new CBA and say, I'm going to be here. I'm going to be in meetings. I don't have to practice. I don't want to practice. I want to get a deal done. But he's making 10 and a half base salary this year, $10.5 million. I would hold in too. The dude is worth, in my opinion, and you're going to see probably the highest paid contract to a player in NFL history. You're looking at starting at $55 million average per year. It's going to be an extension. Diana's got ears on the ground there. My thing is, like, how in the world you had all summer for the Packers? How in the world this is not done yet? I don't think him missing practice is a big deal, but knowing him and working out with Jordan Love this offseason, he wanted it done. He doesn't want to miss one day, one walkthrough, one rep. You got Michael Pratt from Tulane taking the reps now. So it's unfortunate. If I was his agent, and I've been a part of a lot of these conversations in terms of having quarterbacks on teams get paid, these agents should be on the ground fighting tooth and nail for their agent to get it done. I don't know if his agent is there in person. But how about the Packers, man? You go from Favre to Rodgers to Jordan Love. Like, it is, and you look at the Cleveland Browns franchise, there's like 30 quarterbacks in that time frame. So they know what to do when they are definitely scouting quarterbacks.
Okay, you worked out with Jordan Love in the offseason?
I did. I'm not coming back.
Oh, okay.
It was more like cardio based.
Okay, cardio.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is it that you see with him that makes him worthy of $55 million? Like, have you seen enough of him? A lot of times we need to see 2 seasons of football, not just one. We don't get that luxury if you're the Packers. What makes him an elite quarterback?
You look at when they started 3-3 last year, him and LaFleur, the head coach, they were not on the same page about what that offense needed to look like. And quite frankly, they had a lot. They were the youngest offensive roster in the NFL last year, including Jordan Love. First year, he was able to sit and watch under Rodgers for a few years. But when you really go and you get past the 6 games and you get back past them figuring out what they want to do on offense, I would argue, and I don't have to argue, the numbers back it up, that the last 10 games of the year, 11 games of the year, he played better than anyone in the NFL, including the playoff run. One errant throw away from making it even further. So I just really think that the way that LaFleur has this offense going, Jordan Love is the best fit for him. The pocket presence, he just looks like a Green Bay quarterback, the way he slings the ball sidearm, the way he's throwing and jumping and everything like that. So I just think in this league, it's a bigger, broader question, right? In this league, if you can have a quarterback and you find a quarterback that can do what Jordan Love does, you pay him right away, because if you wait, it's only going to get more expensive. And an interesting nugget on this negotiation, I would expect it to be 4 or 5 years, okay, on the extension. When is the new CBA up, Dan? 6 years. So you can imagine the kicker from the new media rights being negotiated in that. So it's actually smart for some of these quarterbacks. You're going to see Tua do it, I bet. You're going to see Jordan Love do it, to tie their contract to right before the CBA ends, to be able to get that kicker in media rights, and it just skyrockets salary caps.
Chase Daniel, co-host of the Athletics Scoop City podcast, along with Diana Rossini. The Kansas City Chiefs feel like the only team that can prevent them from winning is the Kansas City Chiefs. Where can it go wrong for Kansas City this year?
It's themselves. The only person and people that can beat the Kansas City Chiefs are themselves. And they almost did it last year with all those drops. You saw Patrick Mahomes on multiple occasions last year with those receivers getting so frustrated. What do? They go out and they draft Xavier Worthy, which I think is one of the better receivers in this class. If you're going to go and do the speed type thing, you're going to run by guys. That's what Andy Reid wants to do. You go out and you get Hollywood Brown.
But if you're Buffalo, though, Chase, and Kansas City says, we'd like to trade up to your position.
Yeah. I don't do it. You don't do it. And then you lose Stephon Diggs. You're just letting the best team in the NFL get better. So I don't understand that. And the biggest thing about KC is, I mean, everyone saw that clip, that throw from Patrick Mahomes to Xavier Worthy a few days ago in training camp. And in my mind, I'm like, don't get excited about a throw in training camp. Don't get excited about a throw in training camp. I was beyond myself because it's just like the throw, the catch, like you can just see the weapons they're going to have. The biggest question mark is that offensive line. How are they going to hold up? But their defense, Dan, their defense carried them. And you can see the growth in Patrick Mahomes this past year. His numbers were the worst of any year as a starter that he's been at. But he still won a Super Bowl because he was able to digest the information and to change. He didn't have to throw it deep all the way. So when the best player in the NFL gets better, protections, throwing, leadership, that's a scary thought for the rest of the NFL.
How good can the Texans be?
As good as they want to be. They got C.J. Stroud.
But are they a
Ryans.
Super Bowl caliber? Like the expectation level is pretty high this year.
Yeah, and that's something that when we talk to some people in the Texans organization, that's what DeMeco Ryans wanted to get rid of, the expectation level on the outside, because the expectation level on the inside is take it one game at a time, pull back, keep it simple, stupid, is like, what is their sort of motto? Like, don't overthink it. They go out and they get Stephon Diggs. This is their Super Bowl window. Let's make no mistake about it. If C.J. Stroud stays healthy, Nico Collins came on the scene last year, Tank Dell came on the scene last year. I was talking to Case Keenum, we're pretty tight. And he was telling me, I asked him the first thing. We saw him at this family camp that we go to in Estes Park, Colorado. And it's a camp in the mountains where you ride horses and you go river rafting, you do all that stuff. The first thing I asked him when we arrived and I saw him, I said, how good is CJ Stroud? Because I watched the film and I'm a film junkie and I can see it. And he said to me, point blank, he said, he has the chance to be one of the best, if not the best quarterbacks ever. And then he went on to just like explain the offense and stuff. And that sort of threw me back. But Case doesn't really lie. Like, he's been around a lot of people and a lot of teams. I just think the way that CJ Stroud processes information, the way he's able to go out and lead, from even being a rookie last year, I think you're going to see him take a jump even this year.
Explain to me. So Case Keenum is talking about C.J. Stroud could be one of the greatest, if not the greatest. And then you have John Harbaugh, who comes out and talks about that Lamar Jackson, the vision is that he could end up as the greatest quarterback of all time. I don't know why. Yeah. I don't know why he would say this, because factually it's not true. He has to get past Patrick Mahomes first of all, and then there's Tom Brady. But does Lamar need a cheerleader here? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't Baltimore say any team can give us 2 first-round picks and you could get Lamar Jackson prior to last season? So the greatest quarterback of all time was available if you gave them 2 first-round draft picks.
It makes no sense. And it sounds like he does need a cheerleader. I mean, he's missed back-to-back days being sick, so maybe Harbaugh's like, hey, come back. We need you. I'm not sure that whole situation. And I get a head coach hyping up a quarterback, but to say it in the way he said it, that's our vision for Lamar, is for him to be the greatest quarterback of all time in the National Football League. I just sort of lost, not respect for Harbaugh, but he's pretty truthful. But when he said that, I'm like, dude, you've got 2 MVPs. Yeah, but you don't have a Super Bowl. And until you get 1 or 2 Super Bowls, you can't even put them in that conversation, because you go out, you win the MVP last year, which, it was up for debate. I thought it should have been Dak or Brock Purdy. I thought Lamar played well enough. But you go and you lose at home to the best team in the National Football League. Like, you got to beat the Chiefs. You got to get past the Chiefs. You got to get over that hump. And quite honestly, that's going to be the story from a national media perspective. At least that's how I follow it, is until you can win the big game, you can get the 1 seed, you can do everything you want, but it really matters in the playoffs. And you look at Lamar's playoff record, it's not great.
Yeah, it just kind of put a brighter spotlight on what he hasn't done instead of what it's been a pretty remarkable career. That B27, you got 2 MVPs, but there's nobody in the history of the sport that's had 2 MVPs and didn't win a Super Bowl.
Exactly.
And I think look, that plays well in Baltimore. I'm sure that the Raven fans were like, yeah. But, the thing is it went out to the national media as well, and that's when we're going, I don't get it. But I think you just added some more pressure on Lamar because he's one of those guys, and there's certain guys, like the Cowboys, where you go, I don't care what you do during the regular season. I want to see what you do in the postseason.
Do you think it's a motivation tactic, reverse psychology to get Lamar to buy in, to think he's gonna that's the only way I can think about it. Because if you really think about it, like he's wrong saying that, but maybe it's a motivation tactic. Like
Chase,
Lamar,
he's got 2 MVPs. He can't be that insecure. He's got 2 MVPs.
You would be surprised, Dan, with these insecurities of these starting quarterbacks,
but not the backup quarterbacks.
Never. We're the city's best friend until we step onto the field.
Are you officially retired?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I didn't make some big announcement.
Wait,
yeah, you can break it here on the Dan.
Okay,
I'm officially retired.
Chase Daniel is officially retired. Officially. I don't know what that means, but it is.
I don't either.
Do you have to send in paperwork?
No, so that's a good question. So I was literally, I kid you not, Dan, it's funny you brought it up. Like 2 days ago, I texted my agent, Jeff Nally, he works for CAA. And I said, hey, man, like, I think it's time to send in my papers. I'm ready to just get this over with and get this done. He goes, dude, it's a myth. There's no papers you sign. I was upset because I was like, this is an ending chapter in my life. This is what I wanted to do. And he's like, no, he burst my bubble. I was like, yeah, I get to sign all this stuff. I get to go to New York. He's like, dude, no, just tell him you're retired. You're retired. I'm like, oh my gosh, what are we doing?
We'll check in with you during the season. Our best with Diana and Scoop City, the athletic website with Chase Daniel. Thanks. Good to talk to you, buddy.
Thanks, man.
Chase Daniel won a Super Bowl with the New Orleans Saints and hosted the Chase Daniel Show on the YouTube channel. 2-time Heisman Trophy candidate at Missouri back in 07 and 08.